What's up, everybody? This is Bobby Skullface. You might know me from your girls' DMs. And your childhood was trash if you didn't grow up with Batman, unless you were Jason Todd or Dick Grayson, in which case, if you grew up with Batman, your childhood was also trash.
Welcome to Your Childhood Was Trash, the podcast where we explore the pop culture touchstones that shape our guests' childhoods. From movies and TV shows to video games and toys, we'll cover it all. My name's Mike, and I'm here with my co-host Nick. And in every episode, we're joined by a special guest who shares their favorite childhood property with us and discusses how it influenced their life.
After watching it, I don't know if it needed to go any further either. And that's not to say it's bad. And 8 only looks bad next to a 10, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's just like the last episode or two when they tied it up in a perfect bow.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not how this show is supposed to go.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I agree.
So anyways, tell us about Batman. What's it about Batman that's got such a hold on you?
I'd say like, I don't know, man. I think there's something like, there's something primal about that character, dude. Like there's something about like, I don't know if it's the silhouette. I don't know if it's like the gadgets. I don't know what it is, but like I feel like the moment I saw it, like the character, I fell in love with it. And I think if I were to try to trace it back to like what do I know it from first, it's probably the Adam West show, but it also could have been the superpower toys. Like I can't figure out which one I may have been into first, you know?
Okay.
But like, it's such a far cry from like what I know of that character now, but it's like, I think that I fell in love with it, not needing to know anymore. It was like love at first sight kind of a thing. And I think that's why I say, I think it speaks to something primal. I think it also like, it's the same reason why that character's so like, fluid. Like you can put that character into anything and it still works. If you want to put him back in like Jack the Ripper times, it still works. If you want to put it in like, you know, samurai times, it still works. Like, I don't know what it is. It's like lightning in a bottle. I feel like it's like it doesn't come around, but so often, you know?
Yeah. I think it's due to the simplicity of the character, right? He's complex when you get into it.
Yeah.
But the, 10,000 mile view is simple. Right, he's just a guy that's very skilled and he loves bats. He's just very crafty, and that I think that's what allows him to translate into different genres, like you said.
I think even as a kid, you think bats are cool too, you know, like vampires and Dracula, and like it all kind of melds together in one thing for like a kid, you know. And I think any franchise that like you kind of as you grow, there's space and opportunity to grow with the franchise. That's the magic, right? Like I think about that with like Harry Potter, right? Like I'm like, it's not my generation. I've seen the movies. I think that they're fine. I enjoyed watching them, you know. But I couldn't tell you much about them other than, you know, like a few key words from it. But that audience that grew up with it, that character and that saga spoke to that audience as it grew up. So like that 12-year-old kid, that first book was speaking to them, and then by the time the last book came out, that kid was maybe, I don't know, 21, 22, and that book is now speaking to the 22-year-old. You know, I think about it with with Star Wars. Like when I was a kid and I fell in love with Star Wars, it was all about like, you know, guns and you know, bounty hunters and cool helmets and that. And then like you get a little older and you get into like, you know, the space battle stuff. And then you get a little older and you get into like the like religious aspects, and a little older and you get into the politics stuff, and you get a little older and you get, you know, and like at every step there's something for your age group to kind of appreciate. And I think Batman is another one of those things. Adam West superpowers that spoke to me at 5 or whatever it was. And now at 42, there's plenty about Batman that still speaks to me. Like, you know, Affleck's Batman speaks to me at 42, you know?
Yeah. It kind of grew with you.
He's also evolved.
Like,
he has just evolved as a character, right? Like,
the
old comics and the old show were a thing, and then it just blew up, and then there's so many different versions of Batman, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, that have come out over the past couple decades, and it seems like every year or more, it seems like they introduce a different version.
Yeah,
it's hard to keep up.
I think that character is like, it's like he's way more tied to this earth than I am, like and in that way, I think it's like he's way more real than I am. Like it's like, I'm gonna live, hoping God willing, knock on wood, I'm gonna live a long life. But if I go tomorrow, Batman's gonna outlive me until the day the world ends. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna be here forever. So it's like you have to be something special. You have to rise above some sort of level of mediocrity in order to achieve that. And I think the fact that there are so many entry level positions kind of to become a fan, like my kids last year, I mean, my kids are a separate case because they grew up with it, right? But let's pretend they weren't my kids, let's just pretend they were normal kids. They saw Super Pets, and that could have been like an entry level presentation to Batman in a sense, and then before you know it, you're watching Dark Knight or what have you. But like not everything has that. I don't think I'm known, I think, more so in the Transformers space. I don't think Transformers has ever really done that successfully, really grab that adult market, whereas I think Batman, Star Wars, Marvel, a lot of other like uber successful franchises, what makes them successful is that there is literally something for everyone.
Yeah, and I mean, there's nothing more iconic than Batman. You think about the whole like debate of, you separate the stuff. Who cares? DC or Marvel, but anyone could tell. You show a picture, anyone could say, "Oh, that's Batman."
Yeah,
but you can't do that with Iron Man or Captain America.
Well, maybe
especially
now,
before the movies,
right?
Yeah,
maybe
America,
for sure. But like like they say, like the bat symbol is like the second most recognized symbol on the planet. You know what I mean?
Superman
like
#1.
Superman's number 3, and the golden arches at McDonald's are number 1.
Seriously? All right.
Yeah. And like, but like
that
all
makes
of
sense.
Yeah, like like all of them, like like are more iconic in the sense of better known than like religious icons or whatever. Like like it's crazy, man. Like it's that doesn't happen like by accident. It happens because you're kind of on to something. And I also think that like like the old phrase, like something is only as great as its villain or its inverse or whatever. And I think that like because Batman's rogue gallery is just so bloody interesting, and
he's got a lot of them, and and they touch on a lot of different things. It's not like he's facing generic foot soldier #1, and then they put an orange hat on him, and he's generic foot soldier #2.
Or 6 other speedsters.
He has those, right? But everybody's got their own different color thugs too. Like
yeah. I think that, like like the majority of his villains are crazy, right? Because he's crazy, right? And like the only villain of his that's like is not crazy in terms of like the popular ones. I'm sure somebody could be like nerd out in a way that I'm not
Kite Man or whatever his
name is.
I'm
not fluent in
Kite Man.
But like like is the Penguin. The Penguin's like in it for the dollar, right? He's like a gangster, and
he's legit.
Yeah, and the rest of them are like they're complete lunatics, and he's a lunatic. And it like goes back into that thing of like what is causing what, like which is like another kind of interesting thing about him. But it's like like he's like he's crazy, right? And it's like Gordon said in that in Batman Begins, right? Like the you wore the cops get handguns, they get semi-automatics, and we get automatics, then they get armor piercing rounds, and then they and it's like this constant tit for tat between criminal and justice, or whatever you want to call it. And then you have this complete lunatic kind of come on the scene, and it creates these other lunatics. I think Batman that's what makes him interesting, right? Is like he is Batman. Like he's not Bruce Wayne. He Spider-Man, Peter Parker is going to stop and get eggs on the way home. Like because Aunt May needs eggs. Aunt May needs eggs. You gotta get her eggs. Batman doesn't give a fuck about Aunt May. Like you know what I mean? Like he doesn't think in Bruce Wayne terms. Like it's all like an effort to be this thing that he's not. He's he's completely kind of lost it, I think, in that way where there's a animated episode. I can't remember. I think it was in Justice League Unlimited, but they like went to like the future, and the Batman Beyond Batman was there, like old Batman. And it was one of those cases of like there was two Batman, but one was an imposter, and it was like they start fighting each other, and now nobody can tell who is who, and you got to pick out the real Batman from the shapeshifter or whatever the case may be. And they were like, well, state your case as to why you're the real Batman. And the one like looks to old Batman, and he's like, Bruce, he doesn't even know the such and such, such and such. And as soon as he said that, old Batman was like, that's the fake one. And they're like, how do you know? And he's like, because I don't call myself that. He would never call himself Bruce, like he doesn't think of himself that way.
It's a whole different persona as soon as he puts the cowl on. He's like, nope.
Yeah, well, see, I think it's the opposite. I think it's a whole different persona once he puts a suit on.
Right? Like depending on which way you're looking at it, I think you're probably closer to being correct. Like,
I think
Bruce Wayne's the facade.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him a
human suit.
That's what makes him a fucking loon. That's what makes him insane. Like, because he has at the very least he has like an identity disorder, right? Like, so. But like, I think that's the thing, is that like his lunacy causes these other lunatics, and then it's like, it's the old like who's running the asylum kind of thing, And I think that's also why Batman holds on to like certain virtues, because I think that he knows how on the edge he is, and I think those few things.
He's so close,
yeah,
right. He is a few bad decisions away from just being on the flip side of the coin and being the villain as opposed to being the hero.
Correct.
And that's, like talking about Superman, we touched upon it. That's what, one of the things that everybody hated about Man of Steel was that he just went crazy. And it's like, they're like, both of them are kind of like on the cusp almost at any given time, right? Well, like they hold on to those things.
And I agree. Like I had a hard time for a while with that scene of Man of Steel where he killed Zod. Right. I struggled with that for a long time, but I eventually came to terms with it, because I think after that, that impacted where he was willing to go after that. So like in my mind, because he killed Zod, that's why he couldn't kill Bruce or Batman when they started fighting, because whatever pain he felt from that, he never wants to live again, But I do always laugh, right? And it's hard to make this joke with the mask, so you just have to forgive me. But like my buddy, when I went and saw that in the theater, my buddy Shoulders saw it with me. And like, Zod is like, he's burning the lasers here, right? And the family's like over here, and Superman's like holding his head. And my buddy Shoulders was like, why didn't he just look like this? And ever since then, like I have a hard time taking that scene seriously. So I just sort of agree to go into the suspension of disbelief.
Right. but that's kind of the point, is like you touched upon it. Like he has those weird virtues that he does hold on to prevent himself from going there, which is really, like I said, it's a few bad decisions, and he's literally on the same side as the Joker with him.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I agree.
You have to, like, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say like it almost as well as you have. He's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, he is like,
he is the Bat, like in his mind.
Yeah.
In his mind, I think Bruce died when he was 10 or whatever. Like the day that his parents died, the whole family died in his mind.
Yeah, what was it? Did you guys discuss it on Nerd Rage, Bobby, or did I hear it somewhere else where there's like a theory of Batman or Bruce when he was a kid went insane after seeing his parents killed, and he was committed to Arkham, and the Joker and all these other people are staff at Arkham Asylum. And all this is happening in his head.
There may have been a book or something that we read or something, but that does sound familiar. But that is interesting.
It sounds familiar to me too, but
it is interesting.
That sounds brilliant. Like that's just a brilliant twist on the character and completely plausible. That's
still works. Like that's like the beauty of that character. It's like you put him. It's like he's like water. You put him in the cup, he becomes the cup. You put him in the teapot.
So does Clayface.
Yeah, say the but yeah, I think that like all like I don't know, it's like the same thing with like you know, in Flashpoint, you know, where they kill Bruce and then the Thomas becomes like a murdering Batman and Martha becomes Joker, and it still works. Like it always works. It's like it's almost like more interesting to see how you can break it, you know, because it's like it's very rare. Do you like break it all the way?
It's like, can you? It's those people who are like who just push the boundaries of stuff, and they're like, well, can it do this? Well, should it do that? I don't know, but can it?
Yeah, Batman's a lot like it's a lot like pizza to me, man. Like it only tastes so bad, you know. Like it's like like even like you take like the Battinson, like the new Batman. Like he's not my favorite Batman by any stretch of the imagination, and I still enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Like,
yeah.
You know, like
I started to try to watch that movie this past weekend actually, and I couldn't figure out what it was or whatnot because I'm like 3 minutes into the movie and I can't hear the TV in the background, and I'm like, I don't know if this is just like where the audio, like, is it supposed to be this low? I couldn't, but I was like, I can't.
I haven't seen it out of theaters, but I remember when I saw it, like at the end of it, like, you know, like when the levees are breaking and all that, like I just kind of expected it to be like this like big climactic battle, and then like he just kind of fights 8 guys. You know, and like I remember I was telling my buddy Gary that, and Gary was like, "Dude, if I beat 8 guys, you would never hear the end of it. I would be telling that story." And I was like, you know,
right, but Gary's not Batman,
right?
Maybe he is.
That we know of. Have you seen the two in the same place at the same time?
Yeah,
I've never seen either one of them. So,
but dude, I mean, like I think like I have nostalgic ties to it. You know, like I mean, I remember it when '89 came out, and I'm like 8 years old, and like it was everything to me, you know what I mean? Like, and it was also like a bit of a forbidden fruit because my father was like a little, oddly enough, like he was a little like hesitant to let me see it because of like how much hatred I think was in it and like how dark the tone was.
It was a dark movie for little kids.
And I think my father thought that my life was kind of could use a little bit more sunshine and puppy dogs and rainbows than more darkness. But I could
see it worked out.
Yeah, but not only that, but it's like I think that like, well, what's the worst thing you can tell a kid, right? Like, don't look at this or don't do this or
don't watch this. All right, well,
what's going to happen?
I had no interest in watching it, but now I want to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember like, you know, like I remember having like the Kenner toys from that, and like, you know, making Batcaves, like because I had like the Kenner Batcave that was like a re-release of the Superpowers one. And it was inadequate, you know, and like me and my buddy Adam at the time, and you know, we like built like pieces of wood, like from leftover pieces of wood, like built a whole bat cave with like a working garage and everything else, and like, you know, like it's just I don't know, man. It's
we did ridiculous things as kids.
yeah.
We did.
Yeah. I mean, we built
everything became a prop.
His sister had like a dollhouse of sorts, and we like took the dollhouse. It was like kind of a nice dollhouse, and like made that Wayne Manor, and then like we had the Batcave like underneath. Like we put like Wayne Manor on top of the bed, and then like had the Batcave underneath, and like, you know, we had like all the different Arctic Batman and all them. We had them, but they were all like just suits in the armory. You know, like that was the armory room that he could like choose which suit to be in, and then you know, like it was fucking incredible. Can I curse? I shouldn't.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
No.
But like, you know, I think that like, you know, it's like, it's one of those things that's just, it hasn't broke my heart yet. You know, I think we're like a lot of franchises that like I've been into since I was a kid is like broken my heart at different stages. And like nothing has broken my heart yet. Even shit that I don't like, it doesn't break my heart. Like Batman and Robin or Batman Forever, which I wasn't really crazy about later, but even Batman Forever, I think at the time I was kind of like, this is fine. But it never broke my heart. Like even now, if I watch it, I'm like, yeah, this is dumb, but it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt in the same way that like Revenge of the Fallen hurts or Episode 9. You know, like it doesn't hurt.
It weirdly feels campy. It like goes back to the campiness in Forever.
Yeah,
like it almost like goes backwards and
sure.
Yeah, that's just how dynamic the character is, right? Like you said, he works in everything. You want something dark and serious, he's going to work. If you want something campy and lighthearted, it's going to work, especially with his rogues gallery, because you have the spectrum, right? Penguin, realistic and grounded, and then you have Clayface. You know, that it's all over the place, so he can fit in almost anything that the creators want him to, which is amazing.
You know, and I think that like if you think about like the damage even that he's like kind of, you know, accrued over the years, like because like there's that whole thing, right, with like the comic book code and all that shit that like basically created the boom pow bam Batman that we kind of knew. And like you know, this guy, just for the listeners, like this guy, he was a bit of a psychologist, I think, and he went around to juvenile institutions and asked them like what they read, what they, you know, listened to, et cetera, et cetera. And the one thing that like all these juvenile kids had, like juvenile delinquent kids had in common, was they read comic books. So like in typical kind of American fashion, like we don't blame the kids, we don't blame the families, we blame the other thing, and we blame comic books. Easier. Yeah, and the comic books went to trial, and out of that came the Comic Book Authority Code. Out of that, you know, Batman changed overnight to like kind of the come along chum Batman. And you know, one of the things that he was critical of at the time was that it was actually that Robin and Batman was trying to push like a homosexual agenda on children for the day, which like, you know, now we think is ridiculous, but at the time people were like, you know, freaked out by it. And like, you know, so like all that shit had like this huge impact on this character, you know, for decades, you know. And then you get a couple people that are kind of bold enough and were willing to like grab their balls and like, you know, say, no, like we're just going to do justice, so to speak, to this character. And, you know, like your Neil Adams and your Frank Millers, and, you know, and then like within a couple of books, like that's the thing, like it didn't take much. Like it's like Neil Adams run and then Dark Knight in year one, and all of a sudden he's back like he was never gone, you know. Like,
yeah,
you know, it's incredible, man.
Yeah, that's taking risks and, you know, kind of grounding the character again. You know, they knew what he needed to be and they knew how to get back there.
Yeah.
and they did it in, you know, triumphant fashion, because
it's ironically, I guess, or you know, I don't know, maybe it's a double entendre, but it's like he's a very resilient character. You know, like it's just like he takes a licking and keeps on ticking. Like it doesn't matter, no matter what poorly done shit they had to like put him through. He finds a lane in it, and then he comes out of it on the other end. And I had mentioned to you that like, you know, he's like an important character in like my life, because like there's just been, you know, like without getting too much into detail, like in 2004 to 2004 to pretty much the whole year, I was on trial. I was 23 years old, and my life was very different than it is today. And I wasn't charged with anything, but I was on trial. One of my best friends was facing 33 years at the time, and I had the potential of facing a total of 11 years with what I was going to say, or I planned on saying on the stand, because I was responsible for it, and I didn't want my buddy to do time for me, basically. And you know, long story short, when I went up, I said my piece. I was, you know, took responsibility and accountability for my actions. No charges were pressed against me. My buddy was found not guilty. Everybody, it was the day before Thanksgiving. Nice. 2004 is one of the best days of my life. But I say all that to say this, like after that moment, like I definitely like, I made a decision to change my life. Right.
Yeah.
And, I got back into things that I had found joy in when I was younger, comics and movies and all that kind of stuff. And Batman spoke to me at a different level, at a different frequency, you know, at that age, and having gone through that bit. And I know this sounds corny and I know it sounds dumb, but like to me, he made like doing the right thing cool.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
It had a huge impact on me. So like that, and then also, like, the other thing that's maybe not as healthy all the time is I'm like a huge contingency plan person. So like it drives my wife completely insane sometimes, but like, you know, like I always have like a backup, if not a backup to the backup in case something fails. Like I'm scared to death of shit going wrong, you know, and I think in jeopardizing what I've kind of been able to build, I think, you know, not the content and all that shit, but just my regular real life, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like the character's just been there since I was a kid and through my entire life, and I think he is the ultimate example of human will and determination, and I think that those two words have been, for better or worse, important to the success of my life. You know, so it's like, I don't know, it's inspiring, I think, to me in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's awesome that, you know, you found that through Batman,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it kind of pulled you, you know, not on the right track. Cause I mean, I don't know what exactly was, you know, going on, but it made you it made a difference in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
sure.
it changed it for you for the better. And like that speaks a lot of a fictional character to be able to do that to anyone. You know, that's a testament to the writers, the creators, and all that to make something so solid that it actually impacts someone's life in such a tremendous way.
I think my whole life, like, I always was attracted to the heroes that had an edge, you know, like I never gave a shit about Luke Skywalker. I was Han Solo,
Yeah.
you know, like I was Han Solo and I just need my gun and my dog and I was good to go, you know? And, you know, I didn't care about Cyclops. I liked Gambit. He smoked cigarettes and wore a trench coat and got the girls. And you know, that was like, you know, that's like, you know, so it was always that kind of stuff. And I think that Batman, like when compared to like Superman or Spider-Man, which were really like the big heroes of my generation, along with Wolverine, but Wolverine was almost kind of like too popular, you know, that like that character spoke to me a bit more just because it had like this, you know, the seasoning of darkness on it, you know, that I think I found alluring at some point or level. I don't know.
Yeah. That's funny. When I got in trouble when I was a kid because I had like these winter gloves, like not the big puffy ones, but the actual like kind of, you know, cotton ones or whatever. And I cut the fingers off them to be like Gambit. My parents got so mad that I just destroyed a perfectly good pair of winter gloves.
Dude, I've told this story 1,000 times, but like one of the few times I ever got my ass whipped by my father, was so my father, I was a Run DMC fan. I used to snatch the fucking laces out of my sneakers, and my dad warned me not to disrespect the things that he bought for me, and blah blah blah. So I asked for I didn't know that you could buy a vest. Like the idea of a vest, I didn't know it really existed.
Oh, no.
So I asked my dad if he would buy me a black jacket for Christmas. And my dad, I never asked for clothes, and you know, and my dad, so I think he thought it was like a twofer for him, you know, Christmas gift and functional. And so he bought me like this black jacket. And Christmas morning, like I went upstairs and I put this white shirt, long sleeve shirt on that I had, and I cut the fucking sleeves off this black jacket. And I came downstairs thinking he'd be proud of like my creativeness and ingenuity, you know. And I was like, look, I'm Han Solo, and he whipped my ass.
Oh man,
you know. But like, so yeah, I know the vibes of
a lot more expensive than some gloves, but Jesus.
Yeah. I remember
was in the right spot.
When I was a kid, I used to take me and my buddy would like sometimes play like in the woods and pretend we were X-Men, and obviously, and I took a deck of cards and I had rubber cement, and I would like glue like 3 or 5 together so that I could get, you know, some
get the
yeah, so I could really throw them, you know, and this funny stuff.
No, that's great. I don't think I ever thought of that. Now I'm like, man, was I like a dumb kid that I didn't think of that?
My buddy had sprained his wrist. So he wore like a wrist brace, and then like made these, like in wood shop class, like made these like claws that could shove into the wrist brace so that he could be Wolverine and I could be Gambit. We'd run and fight fictional X-Men Brotherhood of Mutants in the woods.
We used to do it all the time.
Which with the woods where we grew up is like, I mean, it's no wider than my house. You know what I mean? Like you can literally see the neighborhood.
Oh, so you had people,
trees.
You had people on both sides fishbowling, like 100%. Watching you, being like, 100%. "What is up with these kids?"
100%.
Who doesn't know? They're being kids.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing what kids nowadays don't do. That's what it was.
Yeah, you know what? It's nice in my neighborhood. Like we live pretty tight together. I don't know if you can see, but it's like it's too bright. But it's like my neighbor's house is probably like from where I'm at, like maybe 20 feet, 25 feet. And which I could use a little bit more space, to be honest with you. But my kids, like they grew up they're always outside. Like my younger two specifically, my older one's into anime, so she's locked herself in a room. But the other two, like there's kids in the neighborhood, they're always playing, ringing on the doorbell. Can so and so come out? So it's kind of cool. It reminds me a bit of my childhood.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. I never had that. I live too far away from people.
Yeah, that sucks, dude.
Even now, like, I love it now. I'm in the middle of the woods. I can walk outside naked, and no one will see me. You know, I can't see any of my neighbors if I go outside. But growing up, that sucked because I grew up with toys, cartoons, and video games. Because for me to go to any friend's house or hang out with friends, I'd have to walk like at least half a mile, cross a busy street, and I wasn't allowed to do that.
Right.
So I think I focus on that stuff.
Sometimes, like generationally, like my, like Generation X, I guess, whatever you want to call it, is like I feel like when I was coming up, like a lot of us, like and where I grew up, which isn't crazy, but it was like townhouses and whether I was in apartments or what have you, and like the goal seemed to be like you get a house with like a big old piece of land and all that shit, right? Like a single family house, big piece of land, 2.5 kids, golden retriever, fish maybe, and you're good to go. And like, I think a lot of my generation like strive for that and did that and got that and then complain that their kids don't go outside, and it's like, well, who the fuck are they going to go outside with? Like I have a nice house. I don't have a piece of shit house at all. I have a nice house, but it's all my space here is all house. It's all house. My property, it takes me like 45 minutes to mow my grass, and that's because I'm not good at it. Like, like somebody else would knock it out in 15 minutes, I'm sure. But like, but it is a community, and there's some of these people around here drive me nuts, with their bullshit. But my kids are growing up with friends and playing sports together, and all that kind of stuff, and that is cool to see.
I think that's kind of like you talked about it. Like that's what, like I'm 40, so we're not too far off, and
no.
So I think you're right. We strive for that, but then we also did want that thing, and it seems like you kind of lack. It seems like at least your kids are going out. My driveway is long enough to make people not want to bug me.
right.
So it's kind of like we got a nice little neighborhood, and the kid goes out and rides his bike with a couple kids every once in a while. But but that's it. Is like we wanted that. In addition to having the kids, kind of like I didn't grow up in the middle of nowhere like Mike did, but like in the middle of the woods.
Right.
But like I would go out, into the woods and pretend I was, in the X-Men. I would go out into the woods and, do really dumb things, ride our bikes forever.
Right.
Like it was kind of, the whole, see ya, someone, do you have a watch? Nope. Is it dark out? Yeah, this one will go home. Right? Like it's dusk.
Right, I had to. I think the same for a lot of kids my age. I'm 43, or I'm 42. I'll be 43 in December. But like the rule was when the streetlights came on, you came in. Like
that's
that was
it.
That was
like,
the rule.
Kids today don't understand that. Like we say that, and we're like, no, they're like parents. When you're younger sometimes, right? But like as you start like getting the freedom to like go ride your bike, not like in your driveway and stuff, like 10, 11, 12, right? Like that was it. Like before I got a car, it was kind of like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Even then, it was kind of like if I was at a friend's house, like if we rode our bikes to a friend's house or whatever, I did just check in with my mom and she'd be like, all right, whatever, come home sometime. Do you have homework? No? Cool, bye.
Yeah.
But as I got older, I had the freedom. You know, it's the same thing. I had to be home before the streetlights were on, or else I was grounded. It wasn't streetlights are on, you come home. It's like, no, you better be home in time. But I used to push that all the time. I used to drive to like the local mall, which was like 5 miles away. I just jump on my bike and start pedaling off there, just to something to do, get out of the house and stuff. Until the day some guy like attacked me. I never did that again until I was a little bit older.
That's crazy. Yeah, I had like mine was pretty much like as a kid growing up, it was like I was like restricted to my neighborhood, you know, like I couldn't go outside my neighborhood because then you had to start crossing like more significant streets and shit, or like, you know, nobody could find you. And then eventually my neighborhood became like, you know, this section and then that section, and you know, and then when I was a teenager, and then it was like, fuck yeah, you know, I was off to the races.
Yeah, I think I was a little bit lucky because my neighborhood was like a very large area. Like I could explore a lot. I could go into a lot of woods and go into a lot of places without even attempting to cross anything considered close to a busy street.
Right.
So, you know.
Yeah, I actually I mean, busy is lowercase b, busy, but like the main street near me that's like right outside my neighborhood, like I got hit by a car there when I got older. Like,
jeez.
Yeah, it was probably like 91 or so, and I had my Walkman on. That's not the reason why it happened, but like anyway, I judged it wrong and went out, and like this lady hit me and I went up and over the car. It was a disaster. A Walkman went up in the air, fucking batteries came out of it, like disaster.
That thing did not work when it landed.
Yeah, but I blacked out during it, but you know, it's whatever. It's, you know, my dad was furious because he didn't know how to express himself in any other way, really. Great guy, my father, but you know, the fact that like he was rattled, you know, like,
yeah,
and that pissed him off that he was rattled.
Yeah, I get that. I had a I was 19, maybe 20, and I had just a piece of crap like junker car at the time because my previous car got wrecked because someone T-boned me. Beautiful. Yeah. And the car that I had was it had electrical issues and it would randomly die. There was a short somewhere or a broken wire. And I called him one day to like, hey, can you jumpstart me and just follow me on, you know, home so I can just get the fuck home. And it was in the middle of a snowstorm, and I get in the car and we start driving back to his house, and I took a turn. Right as I took the turn, the car died and I hit like a patch of ice or something. I slid right into a telephone pole. My dad comes out of his truck, starts screaming at me, what the fuck did you just do? And I'm like, have some sympathy. Did you not see the calamity that just occurred? Like I just incurred. Like, so I get those vibes where it's like that's their natural instinct, but they mean well.
Not my father's strong suit for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. I feel like that's actually probably a true statement of a lot of things from
that era.
And my dad was born. My dad was old as fuck. My dad was born in 1940. So you know, like he had me when he was 40, and then, you know, I was a teenager when he was in his mid 50s, you know, so like
my mom was 38 when she had me, so
right, pretty close,
not too far.
You know, and it's just like my dad, like to think of, like when I put it in context, I'm like, when I try to explain it to me, I'm like, look, my dad was born before World War II.
Jeez.
You know, like he's just cut of a very different cloth than a lot of people, and I think it, you know, I think I learned a lot from him, you know, like a lot of, like, you know, he's part of the, you know, the great generation. I learned a lot, you know, wisdom and shit from him, but, you know, I think also like when it was time to rebel, I had a lot, you know, to rebel from, you know, because he was a very structured, very, you know, by the book kind of guy.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad was born in 49, so a little later than yours, and he was 36 when I was born. I was the accident. I was the oops. Because my brother's 10 years older than me.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you were the oops.
So So that kind of played in it too, you know. I didn't have a close sibling to play with, you know.
Right.
He was
Right.
he was 10 years way beyond me, and he grew up. He grew up fast, and you know, even I'm 38, he's so 48, and like none of the stuff resonates with him. Math, I know. Like, you know, he saw Star Wars as a kid. He played with GI Joes as a kid. I got his hand me down like original straight arm Joes and stuff like that. But he does not understand any of it, doesn't give a shit about any of it. And it, like, because of my generation or our generation, it blows my mind that like he's got such a disconnect with it where like we all latched onto it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, man. Like, there's like some study that like said that like most boys latch on to things like that they end up loving for life between the ages of 5 to 9. You know, I don't know if it just happened to hit at the right time. I have no idea. But like, it definitely, you know, had a lasting impact on me, you know. I mean, obviously, and I think most people that I've talked to, most of them do. And I think, you know, I debate with people about this all the time, but like, I don't think I think there's a few that have sense, like franchises and things in time, like Pokemon did it.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball did it. But I don't know how much really does it anymore, where I feel like it was like everything at my, you know, but I think it's also because there's just so many options out there that it's like since the well is so much deeper, it's like there's a lot more bullshit, you know, and a lot less quality stuff that like is going to really work for kids, you know?
Yeah, but then you look at it like, you know, subversely is where like when we were kids, none of that was good shit. Like you look at it now, like you watch He-Man and all that stuff, and it's not good.
Yeah,
but
I think it's also I think it was the characters, man. Like if you think about it, like now, like the characters, like they don't do as many characters. Like Superman, I mean, not Superman, but He-Man had like this huge cast of characters, good guys and bad guys. G.I. Joe,
yeah.
huge cast of characters, good guys and bad guys. Transformers, same thing. Star Wars, same thing. Like you don't really see that anymore now, I think, because the animation is so much more expensive that you get these little small cast of characters. And I think, generally speaking, like it makes the world smaller. I think I was more interested in the world and like the kind of adventures that I could have. And all I needed the show to do was show me the world and show me who the characters are and what they're about. And then I'll take it from there on my own in the living room, you know? And,
Right.
and I don't know if you know, I could say that the writing has gotten better on some of these shows, but I also don't think it's sticking like it used to.
What gets me, and it might be a generational thing, is that, like you said, the animation, right? It might be more expensive, but I don't like the style. There's so many properties out there. Like, you know, when I was a kid, I used to love Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad, right? That was based off a Japanese show called Gridman. And a couple years ago, they made a new anime of it. And I was like, oh, awesome. I'm going to watch this. Yeah, it's on Netflix. Bobby can't watch it, unfortunately. But but the animation style, it's too fluid. It's too like, I don't know how to describe it, but the way they're doing a lot of animation, I would say, especially animes, it turns me off.
It's not my thing, you know. And I always say like, anime fans are more forgiving because they're so, you know, used to having bad content. You know, like I said to Joe, my buddy Joe, obviously is, you know, a huge anime fan, but I bust his balls about it all the time, you know, where he's like, "Oh, you should really check out, you know, Hashujushuku." And I'm like, and he's like, yeah, he's like, it was a real slow start, but around season 8, it starts. No,
what?
Absolutely not. You know,
wait, like, is it one of those shows where there's like 8 seasons, but there's like 4 episodes per season?
I'm just speaking in generalities, but like I think anime, so many of them are like just these like sprawling sagas, and so much of it is not great, you know. And but it maybe has a huge payoff point at some point or whatever, but it's like I think they're more resilient to it, you know. Like my kid loves anime, and she like watched all of Naruto or whatever it's called, and she was like, yeah, and she told me she was like the first like 7 seasons or whatever it was, or 4 seasons, she was like the first 4 seasons suck. I'm like, why are you watching this shit?
How did you get this far?
Right?
But
why did you put up with that?
When I was a teenager, I loved anime. That was my wheelhouse. I mean, when I was younger, that's when Dragon Ball first came out, and you have to wake up at like 6 a.m. on a Saturday to watch it, and I would every Saturday to watch it, and that kind of pushed me into the anime thing where I would start torrenting animes that weren't in the United States. Back when fan subs were a huge thing, where fans would subtitle an anime for you so you can watch it. And I used to download hours of anime, like anything I get my hands on. But as an adult, I can't.
I think the animation is beautiful, obviously, and I think that like I think a lot of times like the worlds they build are pretty fascinating. It's just when it comes to like the characters and then the acting of those characters that like I start to feel like, man, come on, like when they like grit their teeth for like 2 seconds.
I did get into Sword Art Online, the first season of that. That was like probably 2012 or something. I think that was the last anime that I actually watched because the story was compelling because I used to play MMORPGs all the time.
Right.
So I was like, all right, that got me hooked. But other than that, like I can't. Even I'll see like a title that intrigues me, and I'm like, I can't. But I'll watch cartoons all day long, like American cartoons. Yeah, absolutely.
Had my anime phase. I was more movies than TV shows, so I think that's why that when you're like, and I think it's exactly that. It's like I tried to get into that show, and I'm a very forgiving person with TV, very forgiving, and I'm like, I can't. No, this is no. Yeah. I have nothing to get for it, man.
And I hate shitting on stuff that people love. Like it's.
Oh yeah, everything's for everybody. Everything's got a place. Everything speaks to everybody in a different way, and to each their own, man.
Right.
I loved the anime movies of the 80s and 90s. Yeah, but it was like 2000s and on, and like you said, I'm like, but
it's just not for me. I've tried.
Okay. Yeah. What about the Batman animes?
I saw the Samurai one. I think I slept through it. But I'll be honest with you, man. Like it's harder for me in my older age to get into cartoons in general. I don't know why. Like I have all the like the DC animation movies that are pretty much largely just the comic books. Whatever. Yeah. And I think because I've read the comics, I'm usually bored with the animations.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
It's kind of like when I was a kid, right? I remember Todd McFarlane talking about Spawn because he had the comic book and he had the HBO cartoon series and he had the live action movie, right? Yep. And he was saying that the worst thing that you could do is tell the same story over and over again because you'll bore the audience. So he purposely made all three a little different. And when I was a kid, it frustrated me to no end because I wanted the Spawn story to be consistent.
Yeah.
But like as an adult, I do get it. Like I don't need to watch an animated movie of Batman Year One because I've read it more times than a priest has read the Bible. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I know it like the back of my hand. So
and
I'd be much
visuals.
Right. So I'd be much more interested in animated, like DC animated movies that were like complete new stories, as opposed to retelling of comic book stories that I already love and adore. Every once in a while I wouldn't mind it, but it's like all we get, and so it's whatever. But like, I have a harder time, I think, getting into that these days than I do like Your Honor. Like I'm something about like connecting with the human condition, man. I feel like as I get older, is like it becomes more important, character shit and trauma and fucking adversity, like life adversity and stuff. Like I think as I get older, I get more seeing what a human actor can do with their eyes can make me feel 10,000 times more than the best cartoon at this stage for me. And I love my cartoon. But
yeah, I get that. And I mean, if I'm going to watch the cartoon, it's got to be a good, compelling story and something interesting. Mm-hmm. It's not like when I was younger and I could just consume whatever, because it was bright and colorful. It has to be like, I think one of the cartoons that like I can still go back and watch today even though I don't think it was received very well, but like G.I. Joe Renegades, the 2012 cartoon, that like the story, it's fantastic, right? It's Cobra's Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
And underneath they're doing arms deals and everything like that. But the whole world knows Cobra. They love him because your mom goes to Cobra Bakery to get, a loaf for dinner and stuff like that. And then, the 5 main Joes accidentally stumble upon their operations and get into an all-out battle with Cobra. And then Cobra goes to the media and says, we just got attacked by these 5 terrorists. So you got the 5 Joes running from the government who's trying to arrest them. Cobra's trying to stop, get them because they have like recordings and information, evidence. And then they're trying to clear their names and expose Cobra.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
I'm like, that's a compelling story. It's an overarching story. It's not, like you complain all the time. Not complain, I guess, but like Freak of the Week. It's not that shit. It's
right.
It's better storytelling than Mandalorian.
Dude, don't get me started, man.
That's a whole other episode.
So over it. I'm hoping that we're recording this ironically on the eve of the Flash movie, and I'm really looking forward to that. Which is funny. I was walking around a grocery store with my wife just the other day. And I was like, I'm excited about the Flash movie. And I was like, are you? Because she likes 89 Batman, and she likes a lot of she loves Man of Steel and she loves Wonder Woman. Yeah. And I was like, are you excited at all? And she's like, I think nervous would be the best way and describe it. But she doesn't give a shit. But she's just worried of having to deal with me for like the next 6 months, having like moaning and ranting about what fucking imbeciles do to this shit, So like it's funny, I hope that I don't. I hope that I don't hate it. I guess is where I'm at with this shit. I don't know.
That's really how you go. That's how people go into most movies, is especially about things that you love. Like you brought up Battinson. It's like everybody's still trying to figure out, like, you got Batfleck, and then where does this come in? Like, why put this in the middle here?
Yeah, the general audience, I think, specifically find it all kind of confusing on the DC end. Like,
because they're looking for the Marvel formula. They're looking for everything tying together instead of just individually consumable products.
And I think that even even on the Marvel side, right, like having to explain, I still find myself having to explain Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man to like your average moviegoer, like that, like, and it's just like, it's just interesting. It's just like, most movies don't really require that of you. You know what I mean? Like, if you watch fucking Rocky, it's just fucking Rocky. It's Rocky all the way through, and then you watch Creed, it's just a continuation of the Rocky. You don't have to worry about all of the multiverse and all that kind of shit. And, comic books are a little bit more tricky that way. And I think that it's shit like, the Battinson and I think, honestly, 2 other things. One being the Joker movie, I think, threw a lot of people for a loop, because a lot of people, like your average moviegoer, like really connected and loved that movie, but didn't understand how it fit in to the DC universe. And then in the same breath, because people love those Bale movies so much, and rightfully so, they hold their love for Bale as a tool for hate for Affleck or whoever else does it, which is, unfortunate, because I think they all
separating them out,
right? Because they all do something interesting with the character. I think they all get certain parts of it really right, and then other parts, I prefer the other ones.
Yeah, so I liked Batfleck. I liked his portrayal, and especially in the Snyder cut.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see his portrayal in the Flash movie, because he said he finally figured the character out, and he said he did the best in this movie. So I'm hoping it's not just PR trying to get you to see it. I'm hoping that's the real
my
real
only
deal
concern is when he said that, he said for the 5 minutes I'm in it, and I was like, oh.
I think it said 15.
Did he say 15?
I think it was 15.
I'll take 15. I'll take 15.
Yeah, but it's got to be a good 15.
Yeah, right. I saw it, but in my mind, it was 5.
It might have been. I hope not.
Look, who knows?
But you know what? You know what? In my mind, the beginning of Bumblebee, it was like 20 minutes on Cybertron. And then I watch it back, and I'm like, that was like 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it could also be that thing. Definitely Garfield and Tobey Maguire were not in the new Spider-Man movie.
Oh, right.
Definitely not going to be there.
Yep.
No, that's ridiculous. Why would we be there? Hey, guys, we're here. Joke's on you. Like,
which no one believed.
Yeah.
Right. Which, nobody actively believed that.
I mean, especially with all the TMZ shots of the three of them at an airport together. Like, this doesn't happen by coincidence.
See?
That last like TV spot that they put out where like they just show the young kid that's playing Spider-Man now jumping, but there's like clearly like bricks being broken up over here and over here by like nothing that's there, and it's like you clearly removed these 2 other Spider-Men out of.
And the lizard was like right here, and then his head gets punched, and like nothing's there to punch it.
Yes. It's so funny.
Hey, I'm the weirdo who never actually watched any of the previews for it. Like,
oh, really? Well, go back now. Go back now and watch it. It's funny.
Like, for example, anytime like you brought up Flash, right? A lot of people are hating on it because you got Grant Gustin who's been playing it for a decade at this point, right? And they're like, it's not great, and Ezra's got his own stuff going on,
right? Yeah.
Right. So it's got a lot of hate going on at it before it even like commercials started coming out. So I've like skipped all the commercials kind of for that same point. I'm like, I want to go in with like none of the preconceived notions or anything like that. And
I'll tell you, I think there's a lot of excitement about it too, though. Like where I work, right? People do not give a shit about this shit, generally speaking, any of it. Flash is one thing that I've heard people say, like, I'm going to see that. I'm seeing that next week. I'm seeing it the day it comes out because they were 8 or 9 years old or 10 years old when 89. It's Keaton selling that movie.
Yeah.
Keaton, between Keaton,
that's what has me excited.
And I hope that it's not. I hope that it's not like, like that. There's enough story there without it just being a Keaton fest.
Yes,
I want Keaton to be like the icing on the cake.
Yeah,
like when Conroy showed up in Batwoman.
Yeah.
What kills me is the direct. You heard about what the director spoiled from the Flash movie, right?
Maybe I've heard some spoilers of it. Was it a cameo or something?
Nick, do you care?
I don't end up caring because I know I can't avoid it. Like, it's hard for me to avoid some of this.
If it's something significant, hold off because I am seeing it tomorrow. I got my tickets. So
if it's don't spoil it, Mike. You're overridden 2-1.
Yeah, just hold off.
And that's fine. But the director spoiled it, like in an interview. He was like, "Oh, I'm glad I got to do this."
Right.
Thanks, buddy.
And I've heard that like. I don't know. I read a little bit about like reviews and stuff, and it seems to be like kind of average, which to me makes sense. Like it makes sense that it would be average. I just hope I don't hate it. It's all I want is to not hate it. That's all. I want.
Which, if you think about it, though, if you get an average review on a DC movie, it's probably going to be pretty solid.
Right about that, buddy.
Yeah. Right? Like everybody, like we talked about the Snyder Cut.
Love hating on that shit.
They do. It's because it's not Marvel, but like the Snyder Cut, everybody seems to enjoy the Snyder Cut. I actually didn't hate the first cut of it. Right? Yeah. It is a different movie than the Snyder Cut. Right?
100%.
Like, inherently, it is like. But you can enjoy the first cut for what it was, right? It was almost like the original Aladdin movie was a cartoon, and the new one's the live action. It's like the same story, but told slightly differently. And that's what I took the 2 Justice League movies as. It's similar story told slightly differently.
There is, I'm not a huge fan of the Justice League, but there is a sequence of dialogue in the Justice League that I do wish was in the Justice League. And that's when Superman said, you couldn't let me live. You wouldn't let me live. You wouldn't let me die. And then he says, the world needed you. And then he says, but does it need you? And that one little bit of dialogue, that I just wish that shit was in the Snyder cut, because I do love that. Powerful, it's powerful. Like, does it? Because with Superman there, like, do you need Batman anymore? Like, it's a fair question to ask. Love it, love it, love it, love it.
It is. I'll be honest, I completely forgot that, but you're right. Like, but that's kind of my point, is like, but everybody hated on it because it was dark or whatever. It didn't fit into whatever the mold was. And that's why I kind of stay away from the reviews too. I'm like, I'm going to go make my own decision on that movie, whether I like it or not. And you can pound sand, sir.
Yeah. A movie could get roasted. If I want to see it, I'm still going to see it.
And if I love it, I still love it. I remember, Bram Stoker's Dracula got slammed when it came out, and like, I still love that fucking shit. Like,
it's a good movie.
I mean, Keanu Reeves' performance doesn't age like fine wine necessarily.
But that's okay, because we got better.
It ages a bit more like milk, but it's still good.
Yeah. I mean, it's all the consumer, right? Like, there's so many movies that bombed, but I love. We talked about one of them a couple weeks ago, Event Horizon. When that came out, that bombed. It was total trash when it came out, but I love that movie. It's fantastic. I think it probably bombed because it didn't get the love that the director wanted, and that's probably kind of why the Justice League didn't do as well, because of
but some things are just considered bombs because they didn't make 7 times what it cost, right? Like,
that's true.
Like, that's what, like, it bombed because we only made 10% more than we spent on it. I don't know. That seems like a win to me. Like, I don't know. Like, then you get to just, like, keep making 10%. 10% times 5 is still better than, only making 20% once because you only made 20%.
Speaking of like Affleck in those movies, man, like some of that dialogue of his in the BVS, the uncut, which is the only one I watch, like, it's still so good, man. Like, the whole like you're not brave, men are brave, and like, you're not a man, you're not a god, you're not even a man, like. It's like, fuck, dude. It's so, and I think that's what, and I try not to live in regret, right? Because you end up sounding like the kid who didn't get his way, or, like, so I try not to live in that, like, fuck, but it's like, that dude is like the last 2 people that I feel like came along to a franchise. I'll say the last 3 people that I feel like came along to a franchise and had a vision, had a clear, distinct vision of where they wanted something to go. Studios stopped 2 of them from being successful. And then the third one is the Russo brothers, like, and I will take a clear, well-defined, well thought out vision, even if it's not in line with what I want, over just some weird ass Twitter hybrid of trying to appease people. Like, I don't have any time for that type of content. Appeasement is to me, it's the lowest form of entertainment, is when you're just trying to appease an audience. Like, and it's just not for me, man.
Yeah, know your lane. Don't try and make everybody happy, because you're gonna make nobody happy at that point.
Right. Yeah, it's like, it's always the shit that rattles everybody at first that ends up becoming legendary later. Like, whether it's fucking Star Wars or Taxi Driver or fucking Pulp Fiction, like, it's always the one that, like, people are like, wait, this is not how you do this. This is not how you do this. That are like, later on, they're like, oh,
that's
they're
not
brilliant.
How we did it.
Correct.
Out of curiosity, what were the other 2?
Zack Snyder.
If you don't mind saying.
Zack Snyder and Rian Johnson.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I think that both of those gentlemen had a vision. And whether or not that's the vision that certain swaths of fandoms wanted, that's a different debate, which I'm willing to debate, but it's a different debate. But what can't be debated to me is whether or not they had a vision. And I think that both of those gentlemen, along with the Russo brothers, clearly had a vision. You know, like it's just Warner Brothers chopped it to fucking, you know, like a fucking chopped cheese at a bodega. And I think that Lucasfilm listened to Twitter outrage and, you know, shook up their whole thing in order to appease people.
Yeah. Yeah, and that makes the product suffer, you know, because if you're doing all this work to set something up that's going to be overarching through a bunch of movies, and you just take it and cut it off at the ankles after the first movie or two, of course it's not going to seem coherent. It's not going to seem like a finished product. It's going to seem jumbled. It's going to seem jarring.
Mm-hmm. It's going to feel weird because you're going to feel like I got something. And if there's a if there's a follow up, it's definitely not what was planned, right? Like you could definitely see, like it's like there's a clear direction, and then all of a sudden it's that meme that's like all of a sudden you're taking a hard right, and you're like, I'm going the other way.
I remember arguing with my buddy Adam about BVS when it came out, because when it came out, I gave that movie a 6 out of 10.
Yeah,
and
pretty solid.
And he said, you know, but there's this other cut of it, you know, that's supposed to make it better. And I was like, man, like, I don't know what it could be that could, because it's so bloody confusing. The story itself, like certain motivations didn't make sense, blah, blah, blah. And then I saw the uncut, and it was like, I was like, oh, I know what you need in order to make sense of a movie. You need the 45 minutes of additional footage. And all of a sudden now the story makes sense. And that movie jumped from a 6 to like an 8.5 to me, like overnight.
It's
you know,
good.
And
I love watching deleted scenes. I'm like, oh, that should not have been deleted in any way, shape, or form.
And it's
that
like,
makes this entire scene make sense.
When you hire certain people, right? And I'm not saying everybody, but when you hire certain people that are visionary people or that do have a reputation, right? Like Rian Johnson had a reputation before he came to Star Wars. I think the Russo brothers had a reputation. Fucking Zack Snyder certainly had a reputation, and he's fucking Nolan's protege. You know what I mean? When you hire these people, like the audacity of these fucking like these film industry people, like to think that they should be the ones to get in the way and decide what's good. Of like, you hired them to do the job. You know, I'm not talking about like Joe Blow out of film school that you're giving a break to. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people that have proven that they can make film. You know, like just stay out of the fucking way. Stay out of the way. You know.
Yeah.
That's my view.
That's the bean counters, man. They just, you know, this is the formula. We got to stick to it. If you deviate, then, you know, we're going to chop it up. We're going to take control back from you. We're going to do something, whatever. And then you get a product that suffers because of creative differences. Meanwhile, one person's creative, the other's not. Just let the creative people create and let the bean counters figure out how to finance this shit.
Right.
You know,
I've always said that, like, I feel like comic books and a lot of this stuff is like, you know, modern day mythology, you know, like Superman is our Zeus, and you know what I mean? Like, it's that. And I think that, like, I don't know. It's like when I saw the Snyder Cut, to me, it was the first time that I felt like I was watching a superhero movie that felt more like Lord of the Rings than Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know? And like, and look, if all this shit sucks from here on out and I fucking hate everything for the rest of my life, like, you know, not for nothing, man, at least I have this like 4-hour movie that like I truly love.
That you can still watch because they ain't taking it away, right?
You can't take it away from me.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, you do hire like what you were talking about. You hire these people to do the thing, and then people love the thing, and then due to whatever creative differences, the person who is in charge is removed, and all of a sudden something suffers. Like, the first thing that popped in my head was like Community. You ever watch that TV show?
Mm-mm.
So it's done by a dude named Dan Harmon. He was like the principal writer and the creator for the first season. And then like halfway through the second season, there was some sort of difference and he left. And then it was like, it stuck around for another season. Then he came back, and because they got him back, and then it went on to go do its stuff, right?
Right.
But it was like he was just removed in the middle, and it's luckily survived and came back. But it was just that. It was like there was some sort of weird creative difference, and all of a sudden, the lead writer and creator was literally poofed.
Yeah.
And then it came back, and I was like, oh, okay, that explains like that explains the like dip here.
Yep.
the drop in quality.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a difference in quality and the direction, because it's hard to pick up and run with somebody else's direction, especially if they haven't written out step 1 through 10, and you're like, okay, well, I stopped at step 2, so you got to figure out step 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even if it is written out, it still feels different. Yeah, it'll still always feel different.
Because you can never do 1 through 10 the same way as somebody else.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, they gotta figure it out from the start. You know, if they're gonna do something like Star Wars Visions where everybody gets a cut at an episode, great. Yeah. But if you hire someone and they have a vision lined out and plotted out, don't cut them out in the middle, because then shit's going to go, awry, and it's not going to come out good. It's not going to be the product that it was built up to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just going to, the bean counters, the things that make money, the member berries, right?
Yeah. I've had I'm sitting here thinking about it and like how much I like I don't think there's any other franchise that I've chased down quite the way as I've chased down Batman, maybe with the exception of Star Wars. But like the caves in the 66 Batman where like the Batmobile drove out of, like I've stood there.
Fun. Loved it. Oh, nice.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And like I've sat in that 66 Batmobile. I've sat on the Dark Knight motorcycle. Like I don't know. I don't think there's very many franchises that I've chased down the way that I've like chased that shit down. I like my kids are named after Batman characters. You know what I mean? Like it's nice. It's crazy. Like it's I don't know. It's entangled in my life in a way that like not a lot of other stuff like this is. It's pretty much just Star Wars and Batman. And Star Wars, I got my divorce paperwork in. I'm just waiting to hear back from the I actually like my main room in my basement, right, is like it has a very small DC section. But like people are always like, where's the DC stuff? And then like it's this, you go into this other room and it's like almost like half of the room is all DC stuff, and then there's like it's just I don't know. It's like I don't, there's something about that shit. And like I grew up like I think most comic book kids were like, it was Spider-Man that was my introduction to comics, and then the X-Men and Wolverine, and then you kind of get into like the wider Marvel universe, and then eventually like when I started reading DC, like specifically stuff that Grant Morrison was doing with like Arkham, Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb's stuff with Haunted Night and The Long Halloween, and Miller's Dark Knight Returns, and like kind of just all that stuff. And like as an older person, that shit just resonated differently with me. And then as soon as like it clicked, then I was off to the races on DC, where I was kind of like everybody else, right? Like, I was like, DC was kind of like, I don't know, like your grandpa's superheroes, whereas like, Spider-Man and Wolverine felt more today. And then, but it became like, had to do with me becoming an adult and like appreciating it more, and it spoke to me more. And then, Batman in particular, I think resonated at a different level, on for the will and determination and things I kind of discussed. But like, I don't know, that shit is, I think that so many great people have come along and touched that franchise and made it what it is, that like it would be too, nothing's impossible, and I certainly don't want to tempt these motherfuckers, don't get me wrong, but I think it would be very hard to destroy it.
It's definitely got a solid foundation.
Yeah.
Solid foundation, and a lot of people do love it, and a lot of people have, like you said, they put their a lot of people have put their heart and soul into that character and made it their own. And taken it to its own new level to the point where it would be hard. But it's a recognizable symbol, and that's kind of where I think it kind of does resonate with everybody. I think that was actually where I was going with that a second ago. Like you said it before, it's such a recognized symbol to the point where it is just larger than life. It is. It will be around, and in Batman's
bigger than Batman.
Right. Yeah.
It sounds weird, but yeah,
he's bigger than He's bigger than Bruce Wayne.
I'll be on the phone, and just have like a pen, like I'm talking to somebody, and then like I'll look down, and I'm like got my calendar in front of me, and I've like scribbled a bat symbol in the corner, like just not even thinking. You know what I mean? Like it's like I said, man. I think the first thing I said about it was I think there's something primal about it that connects with people. I don't know if it's like the devil horns. I don't know what it is. I think there's something. It's something that like something about it seems bad, and yet it's good to aspire to be somewhat like it. It's like I think the dichotomy of it that's alluring. It's like the devil. But it's like he's also this standard of justice. Lowercase j.
His own form of justice.
Right.
And that's it. He's got his own. Scruples, which is one of the. Like you brought up the Justice League cartoon, like his cartoon, even him in the cartoons, he's like, no, this is the answer. And everybody's like, but we can't do that. And he's like, but we have to.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, that's I always get into this conversation with like, him and Superman, and people are like, well, Superman could just, destroy him. And I'm like, no, he can't, because Superman is not willing to do what Batman's willing to do to win. And that's what makes Superman Superman. And that's what makes Batman Batman.
Also, his contingency plans for literally everybody.
Yeah. And his contingency plans for his contingency plans.
Yeah. In case contingency plan 1 fails, I got 2, 3, and 4. Yeah. And then there's also a contingency plan if somebody takes me over, who I've given to somebody else, and I've given all of those plans, split them up so not everybody has the same plan. Right.
Yeah. I mean,
I take that with me in life, like whenever, like in my professional life specifically, but, whenever I encounter a problem that needs a solution, while I'm working on the solution, I am usually brainstorming about plan B and plan C should plan A not work. Like I'm running all of those scenarios over in my head at the same time. And I think that is something that I've picked up from reading this character so much, like I said, huge impact on my life.
You're probably not like, he was actually a massive impact on one of my brother-in-law's lives, to the point where he was just nicknamed Batman.
Yeah.
He drew the Batman symbol everywhere. Like he had, a whole bunch of stuff. And I'll be honest, when I started, dating his sister, he's like, I got some questions for him. He has to answer these, right? And so I passed the test, obviously. He didn't run me out. And we became good friends. But that was it. It's like, it just resonated with him so much as well. To the point where, he legit just, like, that was him. He tried to always look at do the right thing and like all that other stuff. And it just spoke to him, in a massive fashion.
It's funny that his nickname was Batman, because I had a buddy growing up that we nicknamed Batman. Completely different reason though. Anytime we'd be hanging out, all of us, we'd just be doing our thing, hanging out. All of a sudden we'd like look away and he'd be gone, and we look back, we're like, where the fuck did he go? So we just call him Batman because he would just fucking disappear without anyone noticing. Like car and everything just gone, and we're like, what the hell just happened?
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, he had some skills to just disappear. Maybe he was Batman.
Maybe.
I don't know. So, I was actually thinking about this earlier, and I didn't even talk to Mike about this. So, out of pure curiosity, who's your favorite Joker? Bobby. Anywhere, like a portrayal of the Joker, obviously not like comic books, but like a portrayal of the Joker.
So I go back and forth between Hamill's Joker specifically in the Arkham games, not the animated series, but the Arkham games.
Yeah.
All right.
I go back and forth between that one and Ledger.
All right.
I agree.
I mean, like it depends on what day you catch me in. It's like whether or not I classify Metallica's Black Album as one of their good ones. It like depends on which day you catch me. But like it's I think that like the thing about the animated series kind of, it's great Joker, don't get me wrong, but it always kind of keeps him in check because of the format of the show. Whereas like the Arkham games let the leash off, and it's like, you know, and so like that's the Joker that I always wanted in the animated series, and it is bloody perfect, you know. But like I said, it's still that live action thing, and there's something about Ledger's Joker that's like, it's not the Joker that I'm most familiar with in terms of like how he does business and sort of acts and everything. But it's what Ledger's Joker taught me, I think, as a fan, is that Joker should make you fucking uncomfortable.
And he did a fucking brilliant job at it.
Yeah, and I think when I saw specifically the scene where he had that one Batman tied up that was like not the, he was like, "Are you the real Batman?" And why do you dress up like him? Like, I felt uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like I felt like I didn't know what was going to happen, and I think that's the beauty of the Joker, right? Is, you know, you could have your shoes untied, and the Joker could notice and give you $100 for it. Or he can notice it and blow your head off for it. Like they're just depending on the day that he saw you with your shoes untied, you know. But it's like that consistent level of just discomfort that you should always be in around him. And
a contingency plan.
And Ledger made me feel that for the first time, I think.
Which was amazing because it was a pretty boy heartthrob that they cast. Huge controversy over it, and then he comes out, and you're just like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah. It changed my like. I never make assumptions about right or wrong casting anymore after him, because I was very vocal, like just in my friend circuit. Because before all this, thank God that none of that's on record. But like I was very vocal amongst my friends of like just a horrible choice that he was. Like, A Knight's Tale. Are you for real?
That's a good movie,
you know. But like ever since then, like I'm like, man, like, you know, they're like, Arnold Schwarzenegger is gonna play, you know, Black Canary in this. Now, like, let's see it. Let's not
see what he does.
See what he does.
Right?
You know, he's a talented guy.
The reality is, like, they picked it for a reason.
Yeah,
we don't know what they did. Like, there's so many people out there that you're like, they're kind of pigeonholed, and then they do something completely off kilter, and you're like, shit. I did not know you were capable of that. Like, we'll go back to Pattinson, right? Like that dude, everybody pigeonholed him as Edward from freaking Twilight.
Right.
But if you look at his acting abilities, the dude is actually a phenomenal actor.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I think that like even like Leto, right? Like seeing him in the Snyder Cut made me say, okay, now I want to see this Ayer cut. I didn't give a shit before, but now I actually do want to see it. You know?
Yeah. Do you think he's Robin?
I do not personally.
Yeah.
But like I think that you know, he's another one that like I will say, like even in that first Suicide Squad movie, like when they had that security guard and he straddles them, like I was uncomfortable. You know, right? and like so he's another one that like just, it wasn't the same way, and he wasn't able to tap into it as consistently as Ledger.
Yeah.
But in few moments I was like shit, man, I don't know how I feel about this, like whether I feel safe or unsafe, you know, like
I mean there were different Jokers too, right? He was more the gangster type, you know, and if you take him for that, he did a decent job, you know. And unfortunately, an actor's only as good as their writing staff, the director, and all that stuff. And
editors,
the first Suicide Squad's not too good with that, but
you can kind of let them off the leash. But you know, like we go back to the whole people stepping in and stuff like that, and it's like, all right, well, you kind of made it. But even when he got announced as a Joker, people were like, or whatever, and then they did they did do those promo pictures of his look, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure everybody's just hung up on on his look, and I'm like, just because he's not, what's his name, Cesar
Romero.
Thank you. I was like, that's not, whatever I was gonna say was definitely gonna be wrong. Like Cesar Romero or Jack Nicholson, right?
Right.
Just because he's not them or Heath Ledger, whatever. Okay, great. He's not them, which is cool because if he was trying to be them, he would fail horribly.
Right.
If he was trying to be a better Jack Nicholson than Jack Nicholson, he would fail.
Because what I liked about his look was all the gold teeth and shit. Right? Because this Joker would have been at a point where Batman would have had all of his dude's teeth knocked out. That's how I viewed it in my mind, is Batman's got a hold of this dude so many times that there's not a tooth left in his head.
Or I kind of did something similar, but I was like, I don't know what happened. He probably just bashed his head and knocked his teeth out, or he ripped them out himself because the gold teeth would hold up better when getting punched.
Maybe.
Right?
Maybe.
I kind of did a very similar thing. I was like, he's got a reason for all these things. Do I understand it? No. Will we finally understand it in the movie? I don't know, maybe.
And I'm kind of hit or miss. The tattoos, I like some of them. I like the laughing face on the hand. Some of the face tattoos felt like they were trying to really capitalize on the time that movie was coming out.
Yep.
But on the other hand, I like a lot of what they did with the tattoos with Harley. I think a lot of those worked and kind of suited her character. And that DC universe, man, it doesn't get that Snyder cut. It doesn't get the kind of props, in my opinion, that it deserves. But they nailed so much of that casting, man. Margot Robbie, Affleck, Cavill, Gal Gadot, however you're supposed to say it.
I even like Ezra Miller as a Flash. If you're trying to compare him to other people, it's kind of he's got this weird quirkiness to him.
I don't hate him, but I don't think they nailed him the same way. I think that I think that the Wonder Woman, Harley, Batman, Superman, and I might, and Cyborg, I would even say as well. But those five, it's not that they got it right; it's that they got it fucking perfect. And I feel like that's so rare that there's a number of times you get it right, but to get it perfect, I couldn't have chosen somebody better. I don't know. I digress. Once again, I start to feel like the guy complaining it's not like it was in my day. Yeah.
No, but I mean, even look wise, right? If you look at all the people that have even portrayed Superman, right? Christopher Reeves was perfect.
Yep.
And Henry Cavill is perfect. Everyone else, I can't see them as Superman. I don't picture them as Superman. I just picture them as bad cosplay when I look at them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I was gonna say fucking Costner. There's a lot, man. I could go on and on, like little minor roles and shit. When I go through and I watch those movies, I'm like, that is the perfect person for that role. Perfect. I don't know.
Not George Clooney?
No, not George Clooney. I like him. I think I like him in some other movies, but I'm not 100% sure even on that, to be honest with you. I had to Google it.
He's good in the right cast.
Yeah. No,
he's like Marky Mark. Marky Mark is better with the right cast, but if you put him in by himself with a poor supporting cast, it's gonna go horribly.
Actually,
I'm like Transformers.
I'm not a huge Marky Mark fan, but I'll tell you, one movie that he's in is probably in one of my top 10 movies of all time, and that's Boogie Nights.
Yeah. But is it
because he sings "You Got the Touch"?
No, hell no. But it's just that fucking movie is it's one of those I can. There's a few movies that I can have on, people just have the news on, I can just have it on in the background, while I'm cooking and enjoy the fuck out of it. And that's one of those. It's the dialogue, man. It's the you ever seen that movie Star Wars? 3 times. People say I look like Han Solo. Really? It's so sharp, dude. You know, that like what's on that tape is our heart and soul, and you can't have that back. Like I could watch that shit over and over and over again. You know, like little like that quick, clever dialogue, like a lot of Tarantino shit, and that one, and like even like Social Network is like another one that like because
that was so good.
the dialogue is just so fucking good that it's almost like music to me. I can just have it on while I'm cooking.
Yeah,
and then Justin Timberlake comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. I love that shit when it's like he loaned you like $2,000 and then he loaned you $2,000 and then he loaned you $5,000. So he loaned you $7,000 and Zuckerberg's like, hold on a second. Yeah, I got the same thing. Your math checks out. All right, let's do it. I love that shit. You know, like
that was
just
so
smart. You know.
Yeah, that was a really good movie. You know, like that was my first introduction to Andrew Garfield, and then he was Spider-Man, and I was like, "What?"
I mean, like I enjoyed the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, but he was a different Spider-Man.
Yeah, I liked him too. I like that. You know, like you found my true weakness. It's really small knives. I like that whole bit.
No, please don't.
He was the very sarcastic Spider-Man that became popular in like the late '90s, and
I agree. I still enjoy that first that first Spider-Man Andrew Garfield movie.
It was good.
It may be, I'm going through real quick in my head, it may be my favorite Spider-Man movie.
It's mine. I showed it to my wife for the first time last week because we were taking my youngest daughter to see Across the Spider-Verse because she's obsessed with Spider-Man, like head to toe clothes. She's got a Spider-Man hat on, like everything.
Right.
So my wife never saw that, and I'm like, oh, prepare to be thrilled. And she had tears in her eyes, and she loved it.
You know why I think it's so good? It's and like I'll tie it back to the topic of this show. I think it was highly inspired by Batman Begins. If you look at like the times that they come out and how the first Amazing Spider-Man handles like his backstory and all the stuff involving his parents and all that stuff, it's shot very real, very straightforward, non-superhero-y, more like regular drama, like Nolan did, you know, like
and they tie into his like relationship with Uncle Ben, and like he's you know, he's a kid, he's a teenager, but he's kind of a little bit of a screw up at this point in his life, you know, and there's that tit for tat and back and forth with Uncle Ben, and you know, like when he forgets to pick up Aunt May from work and she has to take the subway, and Uncle Ben's pissed because of that, and like all that dichotomy and stuff, it's grounded, it's real, it feels
now by the end with the lizard and all, it starts to it feels a little less grounded, let's say. But like that first act of that movie, I feel like is really grounded. It feels very straightforward, and I think it's definitely highly inspired by Batman Begins.
It was good.
You know, and I think it's good too. You know, so I don't know.
My personal thing that I didn't like about the movie, and it might be true to the comics because I was not a big Spider-Man fan. I'm not like most comic book fans that fell in love with Spider-Man and got swept up in it. I thought he was Peter Parker was just a little too cool in it, you know, with his skateboard and his hair, and he was just a little too cool because my thought of Peter Parker is nerdy, and he wasn't a nerd in it. He was the awkward loner skater kid, which is not a nerd.
I agree. That's fair.
You know, that was my only takeaway with that. But other than that,
he also seemed a little old to me. Like, I don't know why. Like, he always seemed a little old for Spider-Man.
I think it's because Garfield's so tall.
Maybe.
So he's got a young looking face, but he's taller. So he, by default, like he's obviously just older, right? Like,
and Dennis Leary's great.
Huh? Yeah. No. But no, I really enjoyed that one as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the first ones. I mean, before No Way Home, where there was a bigger loss, right? You see, like at least those two movies. You know, he loses Uncle Ben. He loses Captain Stacy. He loses Gwen. You know, there was bigger stakes, and it shows like this is. With great power comes great responsibility. Like, you know what I mean?
And I think that, like, you know, some of that stuff, like, I don't think that second movie really needed Electro. That's my personal opinion. But, like, Had they not had Electro, right, it really would have. This is something that, like I say all the time, but like it really would have gotten to be like a superhero movie where like the objective was just to save the girl. Because sometimes it's enough to just save the girl. You don't need the whole fucking city, Pacific Northwest, whole fucking Eastern Hemisphere, the planet, the universe, the galaxy. Like, you don't need all that shit to be in jeopardy all the time. Sometimes it's just enough to save the girl.
Because if it does, then it makes the world smaller.
Yeah, because you had to keep ratcheting it up and ratcheting it up. And,
because even right now, like, I know you guys talk about it a lot. Like, post Endgame, Infinity War was my last like big favorite movie. I was not a huge fan of Endgame, but after that, it's like where do you go? And it's hard for me to suspend disbelief with these movies now, where it's like, well, they've all come together, all like 200 of these superheroes to defeat Thanos, and it's like, all right, there's this big baddie over here, and it's one of them fighting him right now. Where the fuck's everyone else? Like, why isn't something going off? Why isn't someone's spider sense going off? And so to me, it's hard to suspend disbelief where they've gone. Where it's like, well, every movie should almost be a team up movie in my mind at this point, because they've already done it. Right. And it's like, why wouldn't why go backwards? Why wouldn't someone be there to help always? Right. When there's 200 of these superheroes,
a lot of them. Yeah.
I get the Guardians are in space, or, Thor's over here, but like the people on Earth, Captain America's retired, but you have, Sam, why can't Sam show up and help, or Bucky, they're still around. So that's what makes it difficult for me.
Yeah, I hear you.
When the threat's so big, but no one else is going to fucking show up to help me. Like, even like Ant-Man, I get it, right? They got sucked in the quantum realm. Everyone's not going to be able to just dive into the quantum realm to help them. So he was in a vacuum. That made sense. Right. And I guess even like Wakanda Forever, right? They made that personal. That wasn't like a whole world thing. It was, Wakanda and Atlantis.
Yeah, and I think even like introducing Atlantis and getting to know Atlantis and doing all that, I think that played a big part in like making that movie successful for me, where I feel like they haven't really been taking their time with a lot of stuff recently. Like leaving that like I'll take like what's the one I just saw, the Guardians movie, right?
Yeah.
Leaving the Guardians movie, the villain that's in that, who is it? Fuck, I can't even remember his name.
High Evolutionary.
High Evolutionary. I don't feel like I really understand the High Evolutionary all that well, right? But like leaving Wakanda Forever, I completely understand Namor. I completely understand his motivations. I understand the world that he comes from. I get the whole picture. It's like, that's to me what makes it well done is it's not just giving you the character and then force feeding you the few bits of information you need in order to make sense. It's really taking its time and letting you get to know and experience this new aspect to this franchise. I think they need to slow it down.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I thought the movie was a little bit too long.
Yeah, probably.
Those aquatic armor, or whatever the armor that the Wakandans had, I thought that was dumb. They shouldn't, even though it's from the comics, I felt like I could have done without that. But I love the fact that like Namor's story was compelling.
Yeah,
it's pretty much like, hey, only 2 civilizations in the fucking world have vibranium, you and us,
right?
And I didn't go tell these motherfuckers about it. You did, and now they're looking for me. Like, fix it.
Yeah,
like it was very compelling.
And I like that. But the only part that I like really drove me nuts was like, you get that nice big battle in Wakanda between the Atlanteans, and then you get to like the climax battle, and it's just like 20 guys on a boat. And it's like, I guess this is fine. This is good. It's like, this is good too, right, guys? Like, okay.
Yeah. And I did feel Shuri looked a little awkward in the suit. She's a little too scrawny in it.
Yeah, I think I think she's a very petite gal.
She's very petite, but I love her character. I love that actress is Shuri is great.
Yeah,
and like what they did with the story and the passing of Chadwick and stuff. I think they handled it very well.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously respectful and all that. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Riri, whatever, Ironheart was okay. I felt like it didn't need it.
Yeah, I don't think it needed it either. I think that part felt a little shoehorned into me. But to me, that the heart of that shit is, dealing with, the Panther, like the T'Challa loss, and then introducing Namor and establishing the relationship between the Wakandans and the Atlanteans. And to me, it did it perfectly.
Yeah,
like,
dude, fucking Angela Bassett and that was
amazing.
Holy shit! She definitely like hit that out of the park.
She was robbed of that fucking Emmy. I think it was a Golden Globe. It was one of those two where she was best supporting actor. Yeah, all of them.
All of them. Yeah,
he was robbed. That fucking performance when she let those motherfuckers have it. That's
oh yeah.
That was like, it made my blood curl. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and like her loss, right? It's and when she
I believe
fires the head of security or whatever, and she's like, "Don't fucking talk to me about loss."
You can't tell me that woman that I saw on screen didn't give birth to T'Challa and raised him for 20-some years. Like, you can't tell me that's not the loss that I saw experience,
Yeah, and that she literally was married to T'Chaka for however many years until it was like that was powerful.
Good stuff.
But I mean, circling back, maybe that's why another reason why like Batman works so well, right? It's not Batman saving the world. He just cares about Gotham for the most part.
Yeah. Very very much the same way. Like him, Panther, Aquaman, like they all kind of have like the same sort of like attitude about that shit, where it's like their hometown is like the sun rises and sets.
I'm gonna protect over here.
Yeah.
You guys protect your over there.
Yeah.
And it's self-contained. Like Daredevil and Hell's Kitchen, right? It's all the other superheroes can be like, you know what, you got that. We'll take care of the rest of the world, and that's fine. And that can live in a vacuum. And that's another reason why I think it works so well, is because it's so self-contained.
And Gotham in and of itself is a character. It's like a living, breathing thing, just like any other, kind of continuing book or element of that book. Like, the GCPD, like as a organization, is a character. Gotham is a character. Arkham is a character. Blackgate is a character. Like, it's like I don't know. There's not too many like of this shit that I can tell you like, geographic regions of or names of buildings in, and you know what I mean. It's insane.
Yeah. They've in such a small world, they've built it out very dense.
And I'm always curious to see how people represent it. You know what I mean? Like when I played Arkham City, I'm like, oh, I get to see what their Gotham looks like. Or when I saw the Battinson one, I was like, I get to see what this Gotham looks like. It's like always like a like a treat to see how like Gotham looks. It's crazy. It's weird. It's like I don't have that same feeling with other stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, even like Metropolis, like, I don't care.
I don't care either. Yeah,
there's a Daily Planet. Great.
Yep.
Where's Jimmy?
Yeah.
Where's Jimmy Olsen?
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like, but back to the Gotham thing, and I thought the TV show Gotham, did a pretty good job of expanding on like like you said, the GCPD type aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
You've got Commissioner Gordon, but I think the whole TV show Gotham centralized on the GCPD and how they got their own weird moral compasses half the time.
Yeah, I watched the first season of that. I struggle with any TV because I don't know if I have commitment issues or what. Like I just have a like the longer something goes on, like the harder I have time like seeing it through.
No,
I just can't stay
here's
awake.
The thing, though. You're kind of right, though. Like on that show, the first season, it's a bit rough. And there's a lot of TV shows that like that's why I said like earlier in the conversation, I said I'm a bit more forgiving than most people. Like I've got like a full season of TV in me in most things at the minimum. I don't typically drop TV shows until I've seen where the second season's going, right? Because it sometimes takes a moment to get going, right? And Gotham was one of those shows. Even I was like, all right, like I'm gonna stick it out because I've got my own like scruples here, or more not morals, like my own rules, if you will.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm gonna go through the full season. And I started the second season. I was like, okay, it's like I could see where you're going. It was a slow start. but I could see where you're going on this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I could definitely understand why people dropped it after the first few episodes. And I'm like, no, I get it.
I finished the first season and I didn't hate it. I was like, well, this is all right, but I just never really continued with it. Like I don't know, I struggle with TV. Movies. I think like it's like it's like I'm gonna sit down and watch this for 2 hours and that's it.
Yeah,
it's easier. It's just easier for me.
My problem is once I get the kids to bed, it's so late and I'm so fucking tired from the day that I'll put on a show and I'll fall asleep halfway through, or I'll get one episode through and I'm like, I don't have time to watch fucking 16 episodes or whatever.
I also may have tied too many on by that point where I'm like, all depends. All depends on what kind of a day I'm having.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But I'll give a show a couple episodes, especially if it's interesting, because if not, I do feel like a lot of shows, it takes to the second season to really get their stride in.
Yeah.
That's like a little show known as The Office, Most people don't like the first season, but once you get to the second one, it
which is weird because I started in the second season and I stopped recording it after 3 episodes. I was like, nope.
Yeah, I say this all the time. I like both, but the British one I just think is such a slice above. Like it's like, it seems less like a caricature. The British one seems less like a caricature. It seems more like real life, whereas the American one seems like an impression of real life.
Yeah, well, I mean that's Ricky Gervais too. He's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, dude, no shit.
He's fucking. Even when you hear him talk or like his stand up and shit, it's like, all right. What was the stand up where he like lists off a bunch of people and he's like, all right, who can I offend today? And like he just doesn't give a. He's unapologetic and doesn't give a fuck.
I love like him. Like there's a few like him, Chappelle, Chris Rock to a lesser extent these days, but like there's a Bill Burr. There's another one, like these people that are like these comedians that are like, you know what, we're pushing back against this like offensive, like you can't make an offensive joke. Like it's not our fault to make you not offended. It's your fault for getting offended or not knowing how to control your offended emotions. And I love that group of comedians that are really pushing back against it, because like you can't, it's the same thing as like Star Wars. Like you can't let the fans dictate the art. The fans can dictate what art is successful, because they can support it or not support it, and that art can live or die by it. That's fine. But you can't let the fans dictate the art, because the fans aren't artists.
And what's great is it's these big names that are doing it too. It's not the little guys trying to stoke a fire. It's these big guys that are just setting a blaze and like, we're going to take a stand, because what is comedy if you can't insult someone realistically, right? Yeah, like someone somewhere in some demographic, some nook or cranny should always be offended by a joke. Is the way I look at it.
It's like, I think that like, what brings people together is laughing together, and especially laughing at each other at what we know makes us different, and
laugh at yourself.
That breaks all sorts of boundaries, race and all that bullshit, or fucking sex and whatever, like fuck all that. Like even just I live whatever near Baltimore and he lives near DC. The difference is there, two people should be able to laugh at. Like it brings people together. Like I always say, like fucking Chappelle show did more for fucking bringing people together than any activist that I've ever known. You know what I mean? Because we got together and laughed and was like, yeah, like that's fucking true, or that's fucking true, and like like it helped people understand each other. I think. I don't know.
Yeah. Chappelle show was fucking great. I love how he finally came back and like started doing stand up after like how many years.
It was great. He's great, man. That dude. I think that dude is the GOAT. I think he is the greatest of all time. I think I got to give it to him. Like
he's been coming out with since he came back.
Yeah.
Like he openly admitted, he's like, basically I messed up, guys. Like, whatever. Like I took a sabbatical, but you guys can't like take advantage of me because of that.
Yeah.
Like, and he's holding his ground, and
for
better or worse, everybody, opinion aside, like he's doing it, and
he works in comedy the way that fucking, I don't know, man, Raphael worked in oils or some shit, dude. It's like something I've never seen before. Like the way that it's like one bit that he's these most recent ones, right? Since he's come back heavy, like the Netflix specials, like it's really as if it's one long joke with multiple punchlines. Like I've just never seen anything like it. It's like he starts on a trail, and the trail is the joke, and it's just there's just laughs along the way, but he's always on this one path. It's I don't know.
Yeah, he's a smart motherfucker. That's what it comes down to.
I think he's the greatest.
He's not stupid by any means, and he knows what the fuck he's doing.
Yep.
And that's what's so like compelling with that. But
yep.
There's whatever he does, like going back, whatever he does, he's like, no, I did it. Like, no.
Yeah, he's accountable. You know, like, imagine having to be accountable for a joke anyway, man. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, right. It's a fucking joke. You know, that's what they get paid for, to make you laugh, to make you just freaking shut off for 40 minutes.
And if you don't like it, I know a way to avoid it.
You can definitely just turn off Netflix.
You can just turn it off.
Yeah.
You go like this, or you can if you hate it, you can unsubscribe to Netflix. There's all sorts of steps you can take before you allow yourself to get offended.
Yeah. Yeah, you can return all the DVDs that you rented from Netflix, and
yeah. I still got, I might still have a few. Who knows?
I don't care anymore.
There's a new kid. I don't know if he's new, but that's like hitting the ranks in the TikTok and all that stuff right now. That Matt Rife.
I was hoping you were gonna say the name.
Yeah, what I was or wasn't?
Wasn't.
Dog, you gotta look him up. This he's fucking.
I've avoided whatever memes or everything's like Matt Rife is taking over everything. It's like the only reason he's on anything I do is because you put him there just now.
But he's fucking hilarious. He's so funny. And he's the same way. He's edgy. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what color you are, what race, what's sexuality or whatever.
Yeah.
He fucking rags on people, and it's fucking hilarious.
I had a party here recently, and had a bunch of people here, right? And some that I don't get to spend enough time with, or wish I could spend more time with due to logistics or whatever the case may be. And I had this one dude out, this dude Travis, right? And gay dude, been a supporter of mine for a long time, and I think very highly of him. I don't get to interact with him much, but I get to see him interact, and I'm always pretty impressed with how he carries himself, right? So he's sitting down at the table, we're talking, and I was like, let me ask you a question, man. I was like, I make gay jokes. Like there's gay innuendo jokes that are made on Nerve Rage, for instance. Like, and I was like, yet you're here. Like, why are you not offended? And he was like, his answer was, I'm just happy that I'm included the same way everybody else is.
I want to be made fun of too.
Yeah. Like you're making fun of them, and you're making fun of them, and you're making fun of us too. And like, I don't feel excluded. And he's like, and he's like, and then all the, like, I could tell there's no hatred or malice behind it, which is all fair and true. But that it really took me back. You know what I mean? Like, but like I said, I've always been impressed with how he carried himself, and then that day was no different.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, even there was a clip of, I don't know if it was audio or whatever, or where I heard it from, but it was this woman in a wheelchair that went to a comedy show, and she got destroyed by the comedian. And she went up to him after the show, and I think it was a comedian telling the story or whatever, and he's like, oh, fuck. He's like, this isn't going to go over well. I'm going to get a mouthful. And she, like, had tears in her eyes, and she was just thanking him. And she was like, thank you for including me, making me part of the joke, part of the show. She's like, so many times people just look the other way because they don't understand it. They're so uncomfortable. They think I'm different, but I'm not. And she like just thanked them. And it's like, that's true. That's just the way everybody is. People have to get over the fear of insulting people and realize that they're people. That's where it begins. That's where it ends.
About someone is not inherently a bad thing. Like, and I know that sounds tricky, but if you know, then you know. Like, I always say at my work, there'll be a crew of guys or whatever, and I'll be like, man, like, if it's a new person and people are making fun of them or whatever, I'll always say, like, look, relish this, because if the jokes ever stop, you are not liked.
Yeah.
I've been telling that to people for years. I have worked at places, and I'm like, they're like, you're not like this with other people. I'm like, I don't like them.
Right.
Yeah. If I like you, I'm going to tease you. I'm going to like
that's
poke
it.
the bear.
Like, there's a playful back and forth, and the reality is like you just hope that the other person is also in the same boat, right? Because that's what you want, right? It's, and like you just said, you're like, if the jokes stop, if the playfulness stops, that's when you should not understand, like be worried.
That's when you should be worried. That's when you should be worried. It's not when it's not when the people are making fun of you. It's when the people stop making fun of you. That's when you need to be worried.
Yeah, because if I don't like someone, I don't want anything to do with them. I don't even want to speak of them.
And they don't want to talk to you. They don't want to talk about you. They don't trust you. They don't like it. It has a lot of negative inquiries that a lot of, I think, even specifically younger people don't necessarily understand.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
what do they say? Like
nowadays.
This next generation is the worst generation we've ever seen, written by Socrates. Like it's just like
Socrates.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Jesus. All right. Well, Bobby, it's been like 2 hours.
Yeah. Man.
I know Nick is too. We're having a blast talking with you. I wish we can do it more, but I don't want to take up. But Nick doesn't want to take up too much more of your time. I know you're a busy man. You got 101 podcasts that you do yourself.
I don't care. Don't throw this on me.
That is true. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Let everyone know where they can find you, what they can catch you doing.
In your girls' DMs. That's where I usually lurk. And you can find me right there.
Oh snap!
That's always what I say. I'm not good at self-promotion and all that shit. Like I'm terrible at it.
It's not like you're hard to find.
Yeah, I'm out there.
Well,
I mean, if you're looking for it, I'm out there.
Right.
Yeah, right.
But
Bobby Skullface, Bobby Heavy Hands, The Truth. So many things.
Paul Pierce.
Yep. That's him. I'm at a pretty good streak though. I have 52 reviews and no breaks.
Oh shit.
So, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I always tell everybody if they don't know you, I'm like, he's the fucking hardest working content creator I know.
Yeah. But these motherfuckers don't give a shit. They take this talk crazy. But yeah, I mean, I bust my ass, man. Like this is my second of 3 podcasts I'm doing today. I did Nerd Race this morning, and then I'm doing this one, and then I gotta get my wife's car from the shop, and then I'm doing a show called The Kitchen Table, which is on my Patreon. That's like it's been like the fastest growing show on my Patreon. Like it's very popular. So it's become
What's
like
that
shit.
About?
It's about personal stories from me and people that I know, talking in an open and free space.
That's why.
Is there
the stories are very, very wild because I happen to know and happen to experience some crazy things in life, and I'll leave it at that while we're on the air.
You know what? That's great. I'm interested now.
Yeah, it's
You've
good.
hooked me like twice on that.
It's good, and I have a different guest every month, so I'd like to get a new fresh batch of stories and a new fresh batch of like just people that I know, and that are outside the toy world and the nerd world and everything. Just
because people who you grew up with having crazy adventures, and
stuff that you wouldn't believe.
Sometimes you look back, and you're like, I don't know how I'm here.
Stuff that you wouldn't believe.
Well, crazier than the shit you tell on Nerd Rage, or
oh yeah, I couldn't tell these on Nerd Rage.
All right. Then that makes it even more interesting, compelling than shit.
Now you've got people
because Nerd Rage gets really good.
yeah, Nerd Rage I'm pretty open on too. I would say I'm most open on. So like, I mean, on Patreon, like I have these 3 very personal shows. One is The Kitchen Table. Where it's supposed to be just like guys sitting around a table talking, how it would be, and the mics are just there.
Yeah.
And then one is called Wine and Cheese, which is just my wife and I talking about like family stuff, kid stuff, sex, money, like anything from like kids getting bullied at school to retirement to, real life shit. And then and then another show called the Bobby Boogie Bot, which is where we like go into music stuff and talk about, you know, music sort of impact on our lives and stuff. And those 3 are very, very personal. And then the rest are just kind of like antics and fun stuff and everything else. But the kitchen table has just been one of those that like I didn't know how it was going to go over, and like it's become one of the bigger shows on that platform. So I just got to make sure that I do my due diligence and get it done every month.
That's awesome. Congrats. I'm glad.
Thanks, man.
If you're liking it and that's what, you know, and you're doing it and people love
dude.
it. Look,
it's changed my life, man. That Patreon shit has changed my life. Like, you know, I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for it and for my audience there. Like, I can't say enough good things about it, man. Like it's
awesome.
changed my quality of life overnight. You know,
so go to Bobby's Patreon and watch him talk about crazy stuff and wine or things or something. I don't know.
It's there. It's there.
But congrats, man. And that, folks, brings us to the end. Thank you for tuning into Your Childhood's Trash. We hope you enjoyed our conversation. If you liked the topic and it brought back some memories, hit the like button and comment letting us know. Don't forget to connect with us on all the socials and check ycwcast.com for any new ventures. See you on the next episode. Same trash time, same trash channel. Oh, I just had it and lost it. Nope, I lost it. Oh well.
I'm sure it was great.